Welcome to 21st Sports 2015 Season Preview for the Carolina Panthers. We're going to go over the roster and the season schedule and give you our predictions for each and every single game in the regular season. But let's start off with the roster. And starting off at quarterback, you have Cam Newton, Superman. When he's healthy, he's one of the best he can be. He's a dual threat. And he's one of the best, definitely, when it comes to running the ball at quarterback, as he had 539 rushing yards last year and 5 rushing touchdowns. He actually had the most rushing touchdowns on the team last year. He also threw for 3,127 passing yards and had 18 touchdowns, but he also had 12 interceptions. He's got to get that number down and get the touchdown number up for the Panthers to have success. Of course, John Stewart will be running the ball again this year. He had 809 yards last year and 3 rushing touchdowns. He actually averaged 4.6 per carry, so he had a good average. Fozzie Whitaker averaged 4.5, although he only had 145 yards. So he had just 32, attempts. Of course, D'Angelo Williams is gone, but he actually only averaged like 3.5 out of this backfield, and they did draft Cameron Artis-Payne out of Auburn, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. And speaking of new additions to the draft, they also drafted Devin Funchess, the receiver from Michigan. He's a big target, and with Benjamin going down, Funchess is going to get some opportunities, and with his size, maybe he can make up for the fact that Kelvin Benjamin's not there. It would have been interesting to see if he had been healthy, what the season might have been, but I still think that last year they kind of were celebrated for mediocrity, and that's not really a good thing. But overall, they had a losing record, and they won the division and actually went to the playoffs with having such a bad season. But anyway, receivers, you also got Ted Ginn Jr. and Philly Brown, and also Jericho Cotchery. He said he got the injury to Benjamin. Remains to be seen if and when he'll be back. And then you got tight end Greg Olsen. Olsen had over 1,000 yards last year receiving. He was the leading, receiver, even though he's a tight end. He had the most receptions, and he was actually tied with Kelvin Benjamin with 1,008 receiving yards. Although Benjamin had 9 touchdowns to Olsen's 6, but Olsen had 84 receptions to Benjamin's 73. And Cotchery, he had 508 receiving yards as well. So let's look at the defense. And on defense up front, you got Charles Johnson on the end, and then you got Coney Ely, and then in the middle, Star Lutulele and Kawan Short. Then in the linebacking core, you got A.J. Klein, and then Thomas Davis, and in the middle, Luke Kuechly. And Kuechly just got a big deal. And then you got the corners, Charles Tillman and Josh Norman. Strong safety, Roman Harper. He's won a Super Bowl in the past. And Kurt Coleman is the free safety. So they have a decent defense. Of course, highlighted by Kuechly and Davis is the strong part of their defense. Those 2 linebackers right there. And they're all right up front. But there's some questions in their secondary and also up front as well. And, they got some weapons on offense. It does hurt, though, losing Benjamin, 1,000-yard receiver. And let's go look at the special teams real quick before we get into it. But kicker Graham Gano. I really like Graham Gano, and he should actually get a lot of chances at field goals this year. And then the punter is Brad Nortman. And then you have returning kicks and punts, Ted Ginn Jr. Of course, he is a return specialist. He's always a threat to take it to the house. And you got Fozzie Whitaker helping him out on the kicks, and Philly Brown with the punts and the returns. So they have decent special teams, actually. Like I said, with the offense, though, I don't know. They don't really have much of a running game. I think Artis-Payne actually is interesting. Him coming in as a rookie, he should get some touches. John Stewart has been pretty good. Like I said, they have good, averages per carry in terms of yards. But, Stewart's getting up there in age, so might, end up with Whitaker and Artis-Payne getting more of the carries. But we shall see. It is Stewart's 8th year in the league, but he's been pretty productive. And like I said, he has a good average per carry. Well, let's go over the regular season schedule, and we'll start off with Week 1. In Week 1, they're going to be going up against Jacksonville. That's interesting too, because these two teams came into the league at the same time, and right off they were expansion teams, and then within a couple years they were both in their respective conference championship games, on the other side. And the Panthers actually have been to the Super Bowl, although they have not won the Super Bowl. But in week 1, September 13th, 1 o'clock kickoff, they'll be in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. And I think the Jaguars are going to be a much improved team, and I believe they'll win this game. Then week 2, September 20th, at home against the Texans. The Texans have a really stellar defense, and I believe they're going to win this game. Week 3, they're going to be going up against the Saints. It is in Carolina. It's September 27th, 1 o'clock kickoff. I think they have a chance in this game, but I believe that the Saints will win. I think the Panthers, they're a team that, I don't know, they're just not consistent. Even though they had a losing record last year, they won the division. They said they were celebrated for mediocrity, and I think that that's going to lead them to be even worse this year. I think they would have been better off losing the division last year. They might have came back stronger this year, although I know that might seem like it doesn't make any sense, but it's just what I observe over the long term with the Panthers is it seems like a roller coaster ride with them. They're just up and down and up and down. You think one year they're going to be really good, and then they just kind of, I don't know, they just disappear for some reason and lose a bunch of games. And you're like, why are they losing all these games? They have so much talent. But we'll look at week 4, October 4th, 1 o'clock kickoff. They're going to be in Tampa Bay against the Bucs. I believe the Bucs take this game. It's a divisional rivalry game in Tampa. And then week 5 is their bye week. Coming out of the bye week, week 6, October 18th, 4 o'clock kickoff in Seattle against the Seahawks. I mean, if their schedule wasn't tough enough already having to face the Texans early on, now they have to go to Seattle to face the Seahawks, and they really don't stand a chance in that game. They were in the playoffs facing them, and they really had no business being in the playoffs last year. But week 7, October 25th, Sunday night game, 8:30 kickoff at home against the Eagles, and the Eagles are just going to run the score up on them. The way the Eagles play, they just score on offense, defense, and special teams. They'll figure out a way to score, even though they will, let up some points. But have the Eagles winning. So then week 8, November 2nd, another primetime game. It's back-to-back primetimes, this time Monday Night Football, 8:30 kickoff at home against the Colts. And the Colts, it's going to be similar to the week before. This is just like such a tough stretch. It's as if the schedule makers have it out for the Panthers. Of course, they did win their division, and that's the price you pay for winning your division. You get a tough schedule, and that's why they're facing the Seahawks, the Eagles, the Colts, and then the next week they got the Packers. But at least they have these 3 games in a row at home with the Eagles, Colts, Packers. But I think the Colts beat them on Monday Night Football. Then in week 9, November 8th, they're going to be at home against the Green Bay Packers. 1 o'clock kickoff, and I believe the Packers win that game. So that takes us to week 10, November 15th, and they got to go to Tennessee against the Titans. I actually think the Titans win this one, although Carolina could beat the Titans. But I think they're going to have a really rough year. But finally, after being 0-9 at this point, they finally get a win in week 11 against the Washington Redskins at home. That's November 22nd, a 1 o'clock game. I believe they can beat the Redskins. The Redskins, they have an alright defense, but their offense, they don't have a quarterback. So week 12, November 26th, it's a 4:30 kickoff in Dallas against the Cowboys. And I believe the Cowboys are going to beat them. This is a road game in Dallas. And, Dallas is going to struggle without the run game, but I think that they're going to beat the Panthers. Then week 13, December 6th, 1 o'clock kickoff in New Orleans against the Saints as they face them for the second time this year. I believe they will get swept by the Saints in the season series, and the New Orleans Saints win this game. They're really tough at home. They play much better when they're at home for some reason. They play like twice as good. They're a whole different team at home. So then week 14, December 13th, 1 o'clock game, Sunday at home against the Atlanta Falcons. It's the first time they see the Falcons all the way in week 14. And I believe they actually will win this game. I think they can beat their division rivals, the Falcons. They're very familiar with each other. It's tough to sweep a team, and beat them twice because you see them every year twice, so you're so familiar with them. And I believe that they could beat the Falcons. So then and it's in Carolina. Week 15, December 20th, 1 o'clock game in New York against the Giants, and I think the Giants are going to beat them. It's in New York, and the Giants aren't going to be as good as everybody thinks they are, but I still think in New York they're going to win this game. So then week 16, December 27th, they got to go to Atlanta, face the Falcons the second time, and they lose this game and split the season series against Atlanta. So then that leaves us with week 17, January 3rd, 1 o'clock game, and this game is at home against the Buccaneers. I think the Bucs are going to win the division. I think they win this game. At this point, they would have only won 2 games, the Panthers, that is. They'd be 2-13 coming into the game, and losing would put them at 2-14. I could be totally wrong, and maybe the Panthers manage to, be around, I don't know, 7-8 at this point or something, and maybe this game is for the division. It's possible. That's how they set it up with the schedule anyway, to have the last 2 games first in Atlanta and then at home against Tampa, to have it have implications towards winning the division title, because they want to make it where the final week all the games are for the title, so it's almost like an extra week of playoffs. So that's possible, although that's not how I have it picked. I have them picked 2-14. So, but if you had it picked some other way, let me know in the comments section below. I am interested to read your thoughts and opinions, whether you agree or disagree. I think with the Panthers, they said they're up and down. They're not very consistent year in, year out for whatever reason. Yeah, I figure that's got to do with the front office and with the coaching staff. It's not necessarily the players, because they're talented. Of course, they got to stay healthy. That's a key. They got some really good players like Kuechly and Davis on that defense. And they got some other guys there, too, that can ball. And on offense, I like Cam Newton. And he's still young. He's still getting better and better every year. But they don't have a real solid run game necessarily, even though, like I said, Stewart and Whitaker, they do, get, 4.5 and 4.6 yards per carry respectively. It'll be interesting to see how Cameron Artis-Payne does, so maybe they'll have a better running game, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of consistency out of them on offense, and they don't really score a lot of points. Greg Olson's really good, but he's been like the number 1 target really for Cam. So they haven't had a lot of talent receiver, and that hurts with Benjamin going down, even though they did get Funches. So it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out. But as I said, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.